My name's John Loomis, and I'm the commissioner of the Great Raleigh Dynasty Fantasy Football League. Unfortunately, I finished fourth in the league. There were high expectations going into this year. I feel like this team has really fallen from grace from what it has been. There was a time when we were a three-peat champion, a perennial contender, if you will. It was a team effort. We showed out all regular season, got first in the league, but regular season titles, they don't mean a thing. It's really the trophy at the end that matters, and we didn't get it. And because we didn't get it, I am now doing the Fitness Gram Pacer test.
I was going about my day and I got this random text from John. He said, I want to do something that's never been done before. I actually want to do my fantasy football punishment.
He chose to do the pacer test, and I wasn't terribly surprised when he did, because it was one of the better ones, but I thought there were some other punishments on the table that he might have gone with. Hot dog day I thought might have been more up John's alley. Eat only hot dogs for a week.
John's been working out. I think John wanted to test their own skills a little bit and see the improvement.
My initial reaction was, he wants to do this willingly. I was forced to do this as a kid, and he's gonna just go out there and do it. But after that, I was like, all right, let's do this.
That boy is getting himself into something that he shouldn't be getting himself into, but hey, I was gonna be here for him, so.
Yeah, so the Fitness Gram Pacer test is as the video would say, it's a multi-stage aerobic test, whatever. But pretty simple. You got 2 lines. I think the traditional method is 20 meters, but I will be doing the middle school way, which is running back and forth between the out-of-bounds lines of a basketball court.
I always got about the middle of the middle school or so, makes sense to me.
So I have run the pacer test before. I ran it in elementary school, and I was pretty fast in elementary school. I was never like a track star or anything, but I was good enough that I could usually get to be one of the last, 4 to 5 people running. So I have, mostly positive memories associated with it just because of that, but it was certainly exhausting.
I remember that at one point I was good, and then I was bad at the Fitness Gram Pacer test. I used to really try and be competitive about it because I'm just a competitive person, but eventually I gave up on that.
I remember being younger, I would get out there, I'd start running back and forth. You could feel like your throat burning. A lot of times we do it outside and it'd be cold. It's tough. It's a grueling experience, especially for a young kid. That's tough.
I have, sir. I ran the Fitness Gram Pacer test back in middle school and high school. I'm about 50.
Part of my strategy, I've got a ace tucked up my sleeve. I've got a good friend who ran track at NC State. I'm really going to try and utilize him as a resource to really see what is capable and what some of the best strategies are. What are the best ways to get over your nerves as a runner and really see what the human body is capable of.
In elementary school, definitely enjoyed getting to watch people slowly drop out as they realized they couldn't do it, and being one of the last ones standing was always a point of pride, but by the end of it, all of that sort of leaves your mind and you're just left with pain.
So you go from, this is very encouraging to hear, getting ready to undertake this, especially since I won't get the pleasure of watching other people drop out. This is just me in a basketball court, so
Yes.
Are you saying that just pain is what I need to prepare for?
Yes, but I think as with any sort of longer distance running endeavor, it is incredibly important to find a way to sort of let your mind float, maybe astral project in some way. until like the very moment that you can't anymore. Finding a way to focus on the job that needs to be done before succumbing to the pain is probably like the preferred route to go. I would recommend finding like what your, I guess I would call like your aerobic comfort zone is, like what sort of like effort level you could put forth for a sustained period of time that like gets you through maybe it's like the first 5 or 6 levels of the pacer test. Maybe it's more than that, because then you're not having to constantly adjust your speed, right? Like you'll feel easier if like you're just at like a consistent burn rather than like, oh, that hurts, oh, that hurts again. I think it will also allow you to sort of like lock in and let yourself float a little bit, like I was saying earlier.
I think definitely locking in, floating is definitely the thing that will be easier said than done as the day approaches.
Yes.
Given that, knowing myself, I'm not going to train for this whatsoever. We're just going to go for it and see what
As you
happens.
should. I think it's definitely more aerobic. I think the danger once you get into those faster speeds is that it like becomes harder to stop, and obviously like you have to like make that turnaround really fast, and so it's like how negotiating how you can best meet the beep, obviously, but then also be able to turn yourself around fast enough to go back the other way. And so I think like the speed part is sort of like finding ways to sort of like give and take that speed to the point that it like allows you to meet those times but doesn't become detrimental to your success. Because obviously like, once you start moving at a certain rate, you're going to be running 5 meters past the end line.
Well, Peyton, I appreciate your expertise here. I'll let you know how this goes.
Absolutely.
I really don't know what the best metric to measure myself against is. I think right now the goal is be more fit than I was in middle school. I think that's the hope.
I think there's no doubt that you can accomplish that.
It's time for me to put my money where my mouth was. Finally, the day came, and in order to not injure myself, as age is unfortunately coming for me faster than I'd like to admit, it was time for me to do a decent amount of stretching beforehand. There was definitely an aspect of, do everything I can to ensure that my body will not fail me on this side of the test. After I was stretched and felt pretty ready, I wanted to take some strategy. Wanted to run a couple laps, wanted to figure out what's the best way to turn around quickly when needed. So I took a few different strategies to that. Really just put your foot on a baseline multiple times and see what felt most comfortable. The mission comes first at the end of the day. Public perception, it doesn't matter because pain is all I'm about to be feeling. It was time to do the pacer test.
The Fitness Gram Pacer Test is a multi-stage aerobic capacity test that progressively gets more difficult as it continues.
That instantly raised my heart rate.
The 20-meter pacer test will begin in 30 seconds.
I was definitely intimidated in the beginning. At the very beginning, the pacer test starts. All the eyes are on you. Even some 6-year-olds were watching me from across the park, and I think that really added a level of stress because why is a grown man running the pacer test on a basketball court in the middle of Cary, North Carolina? Like, it doesn't make sense. I was definitely intimidated.
The second time you fail to complete a lap before the sound, your test is over.
Oh, I get 2 chances.
The test will begin on the
I feel
word
like once
start.
you miss one, though, it's...
On your mark,
Oh.
Get ready, start.
Slow pace.
One.
We're gonna take this nice and slow now. Gotta conserve the energy.
2.
Honestly, the beginning of this was a lot easier than I thought it would be. I was ready to hit the ground running right as that first beep clicked off. Once I got to that other side though, that's when I realized I really got to control my pace. Got to float.
16,
This is off to a better start so far. I feel like I'm gonna eat those words.
17, 18,
Well, I thought he just went over there. And then I thought, oh, and he went over there. And then that kind of just repeated back and forth.
28,
Carter, I'm doing this for not even a first round draft pick. I don't have my first round draft pick. I've got 2 seconds.
30,
Yeah, he started the test, and to be honest, he was knocking it out of the park at the beginning. I thought he was going to finish it. It was so easy.
41, end of level 5. 42, 43, 44, 45,
That one was brutal. Bad false start.
46,
You know, there were definitely times where I thought I had the pace, I thought I had the groove, and I would start running quite a few seconds before the beat. And even though at the end of the day it really doesn't matter when you start, it's more about when you finish, I didn't want to throw the pattern off too much because I knew once we got later in the race, the patterns were going to be important.
Should have grabbed like a Fitbit, track my heart rate.
50, 51, end of level 6. 52,
When we went out there, I really wasn't sure, you know, what an adult human being could do on the pacer test. But then he started going, and then he kept going.
57, 58,
My rhythm's off.
59,
You know, there's really an aspect, you get to the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, and all of a sudden, you're starting to get a little bored. Like, I hate to sound too confident or like cocky in this endeavor, but, you know, things are moving kind of slow at the start, and they take a long time to speed up. I think my longer legs helped me out. I have definitely grown a couple inches, I would say, since middle school, and because of that, I think I really overestimated how difficult the beginning of this would be.
62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67,
All right, my cardio is catching up to me.
Once I heard that number get higher and higher, boy, my expectations, they started to skyrocket a little bit. And I got a little nervous. Once I started hitting upper 60s into the 70s, man, I wanted to get to 100 so bad. It was all I was thinking about, but I tried to not let myself think too much about it because the reality is, all it takes is 2 mental slip-ups.
76, 77,
My form is falling.
The form started to drop a little bit, and that's when it really was a question of Can he get to 100?
And as it got on longer, I could see the light kind of leaving his eyes, and I knew he might not finish.
86. 87. 88. 89.
Once it got to 90, I knew I could make it to 100. I knew it would be tight, and I knew that it would take some pushing. You know, it took a lot of effort. But once I heard 90, yeah, it was over.
96. 97. 98. 99.
100 felt so nice. I really did not expect to get to 100, and so just hearing that voice that caused so much trauma in my past say that number, I think it healed a little bit of my trauma. The backside of this is that once I hit 100, the motivation was gone. There was not a lot more pushing me to, you know, see how much further I could get.
That's one.
103. 104. 105. 106.
That's it.
Like I said, John's been working out. Okay, I get it. You know, since middle school, I don't remember John getting that much in middle school, but you know, I guess they have a little bit longer legs now, and that helps certainly, as well as the fact that you know, they do push-ups in their room sometimes. You know, putting that hard work going. You know,
I knew that he was going to push himself fairly hard, so maybe he went a little bit further than I thought.
John keeps himself in pretty decent shape. He made it to a pretty decent point of the pacer test, so I think he did pretty good.
There was a feeling of triumph out on that basketball court. He made it.
You know, doing this challenge, it really teaches you something about yourself. I learned that I was physically tougher than I thought I was. I learned I was weirdly more fit in some ways and not as fit in others. I didn't expect my legs to give out and my form to give out as quickly as it did. I expected my cardio to be a limiting factor, and the cardio wasn't. So that either tells me that my cardio is way better than I thought it was, or my legs are way worse than I thought they were.
oh, you know, since I won, it's not like I had to be there or anything. So I decided I would instead, you know, take a little vacation, go to Paris, you know, fly over there. So I was busy.
You know, I'm a glass half full kind of person. In these moments, you have to take the victories. You have to say, I did the pacer test and I got past 100.
I feel like John can safely say he fully committed to the fantasy football punishment. I am hoping that from here on out, though, I will never have to hear the sound of that buzzer.
We shouldn't have done the pacer test this year. We should have won. And now it's time to take these draft picks that I have now earned, despite the fact I don't have a first-round draft pick. It's time to build the team stronger than it was last year. Come back and win this thing. You know, we have the roster. We have the capability. We made it to the playoffs. We were the regular season champions. Regular season champs, it doesn't mean a thing. It's about the playoffs that matters. And we're coming for it next year.
My name is Ethan Ketchel, and of course I won the fantasy My name is Ethan Ketchel, and of course I won the Final Fantasy.
So my name is Carter. I finished 5th out of 8. Is that right? 5th out of 8? I finished right around halfway of the Great Raleigh Dynasty fantasy football.
He made it. The Fitness Gram Pacer test is this little, I guess, fitness, well, test.
What felt most comfortable. But the lights are very distracting. Oh, goodness. We shouldn't have done the pacer test in the first place. We should have won. And so that's really what... I thought I had it, and just there was a brief crack, and that crack, it beat me. Okay.